Right, welcome ladies and gents. Bob Chapek sacked. Now a lot of people might be framing this as good. I don't know. I'm not overly sure what the general census is. I've heard from a few people here and there. They're like, yes, the king is back. Iger is back. And I think it's important to note that Chapek and Iger are two cheeks of the same arse. Chapek definitely embraced some agenda nonsense, but Iger would have set that up. You've got to remember Chapek's only been in charge since February. I think it was February if I remember rightly. And with respect to Iger, a lot of the stuff that we've seen now would have already been in place and was overseen by Iger. You know, movies take years to make. But anyway, let's take a look at this. This is the announcement. The Walt Disney Company announced today that Robert A. Iger is returning to lead Disney as Chief Executive Officer effective immediately. Mr. Iger, who spent more than 4 decades at the company, including a 15 years as its CEO, has agreed to serve as Disney's CEO for 2 years with a mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to work closely with the board in developing a successor, that's the funny part, to lead the company at the completion of his term. Mr. Iger succeeds Bob Chapek, who has stepped down from his position. He's been fired. And he'll get a huge severance package. We thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic. This is Susan Arnold who said this, chairman of the board. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period. Mr. Iger has the deep respect of Disney's senior leadership teams, most of whom he worked closely with until his departure as executive chairman 11 months ago, and he's greatly admired by Disney employees worldwide, all of which will allow for a seamless transition of leadership. The position of chairman of the board remains unchanged, with Ms. Arnold serving in that capacity. And we had Mr. Iger's statement to the company. I'm extremely optimistic for the future of this great company and thrilled to be asked by the board to return as its CEO. Disney and its incomparable brands and franchises hold a special place in the hearts of so many people around the globe, most especially in the hearts of our employees whose dedication to this company and its mission is an inspiration. I'm deeply honoured to be asked to again lead this remarkable team with a clear mission focused on creative excellence to inspire generations through unrivaled, bold storytelling. But what's actually happened? What has actually happened, ladies and gents? Well, Disney's stock is smashed. There's been loads and loads and loads of controversies. We've got plummeting box office returns. Now, box office returns are not actually where Disney makes the most of their money. They make most of their money on the theme parks, which are suffering at the moment for a few reasons. One, they've only just really started to open back up and work at full capacity, so there is that. And there's obviously the couple years delay from COVID and things like that. And then also is the fact that Biden doesn't allow anyone who is not vaccinated into the country, which means that the huge bump in tourism and obviously people staying at the parks because of their tourist sort of status has gone down as well. So that matters. But there's been more controversy surrounding sort of Bob Chapek in general. Interestingly, so Bob Chapek was fired after Disney's share prices plummeted. So Bob Chapek was fired after starting a few controversies that brought immense harm to Disney's share price. Now, I will say that I actually think Iger would have done very similar things, believe it or not. I don't really, again, they're two cheeks of the same arse. I don't see there being that much of a difference. So while Disney's reportedly backed Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, it's not what it was anyway, sponsors in March 2022, it was Chapek's lack of response to the same that infuriated people. The bill limits LGBTQ+ discussions for students in Florida schools up to 3rd grade, which is wrong. It just limits any discussions about anything, you know, whether that be heterosexual or homosexual, which is a bizarre, you know, narrative that everyone keeps seemingly pushing. And also you're kind of outing yourself as people that just want to talk about that, which is not a good look either. So the 62-year-old was also criticised earlier in 2022 by conservative audiences for putting a kiss between two women on Lightyear, and they claimed that the scene shouldn't have been there since it was a kids' movie. Yeah. I mean, you can agree or disagree with certain elements of this, but if you push the pendulum too far, at a certain point it will snap back and start swinging. And I think Bob Chapek has obviously inherited Disney's issues with a narrative and agenda that they look to push, which is quite a large amount actually. And so, you know, certain elements here has just seen it snap backwards. People have had enough of it. You know, they've had senior Disney leadership admit to, you know, looking to push an agenda and a narrative through their storytelling. Now, there was another scene in Baymax where a transgender man buys tampons that also got a lot of criticism. However, it is also quite likely that the project that was approved by Bob Iger, this project was approved when Bob Iger was in power. And this is the thing that's important to note. Pretty much all of these projects were approved when Bob Iger was in power. Pretty much all of them. So Bob Iger is not the saviour here. Now, there is a way that Disney will shape this moving forwards, and you could see Bob Iger completely make a U-turn on all of this stuff, right? Because when someone new comes in, they can go, yep, cool, I'm going to just stop all those. They basically use someone as a scapegoat, which I think is what's going to happen here. But Disney's lost an estimated amount of $10 billion during the pandemic. And it's also seen its share price suffer a 41% fall this year. 2 weeks prior to the announcement, the company saw a new dip in the stock on November 9th, 2021. However, many experts are still expecting a recovery, and Chapek himself said that the company will see profits in 2024. And that was all due to, you know, COVID-19 and all that nonsense, but also just ridiculous statements that's been made. So it's also reported that Chapek made some crucial calls to the company without conferring with the board's chairman, and this included laying off 28,000 theme park employees and bringing more focus on Disney Plus, which has also been incurring losses. But that was also Iger's baby. Disney Plus was Bob Iger's baby. So again, two cheeks of the same arse. But this is kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty of exactly why and, you know, what's been happening here and why it's been happening. You know, Chapek's all-inclusive approach, that was Iger's as well. The company saw changes within its iconic Magic Kingdom show phrases. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jungle Cruise at Disney World Ride also suffered changes after it was deemed racist towards indigenous people. I mean, this is just the biggest pile of balls ever. So, you know, I think it's important to note throughout all of this is that, you know, Bob Chapek's fired, but Bob Iger is not the saviour in terms of his actual thoughts, his actual conviction behind stuff, because a lot of what Chapek oversaw was simply what Iger had already established and set up prior to him leaving. However, if Disney is smart about this, is that they will be using this and Bob Chapek as a scapegoat for them to now move forwards and flip on a lot of this stuff. Which they could do. They could do. Which I hope they will. I really, really hope they will. But there's loads of stuff, you know. They had the suit with Scarlett Johansson. Chapek also abruptly dismissed Peter Rice, TV chief, with minimal explanation, a move that similarly unsettled the creative community. Parks unit. Chapek courted controversy with price hikes. It's almost 50% higher. I think the fees now, something like that, is quite a lot higher. So there's a wave of complex interlocking new offerings like Lightning Lanes, Disney, Disney Magic Key. He also infamously blamed an unfavourable attendance mix for limiting parks' profitability, riling some Magic Key holders who figured he was talking about them because they don't spend as much. There's a few reasons why he was fired. The bottom line is that the company as a whole is just losing bleeding money. Now, whether they use this to their advantage and use Bob Chapek as a scapegoat remains to be seen. But Bob Iger's not the saviour And if anyone's saying he is, I mean, just do some basic bloody research. Just do some basic bloody research. A lot of this stuff was in place. He had set it up. And then from there, Chapek took over. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know down below. Chapek gone. Is this admission, you know, that Disney on a whole just isn't doing very well? I've been saying for ages they're not. You know, I definitely think this is part of it, for sure. Now, again, the only downside is he'll be taking a huge, and it will be huge, severance package with him. But anyway, drop your thoughts down below. Take care.